Hey, so welcome to the Farriers Workout. And if you watched the video with Josh, I showed you how the farrier has that flat back, but a long hamstring, where normally a flat back person would tuck their pelvis under and they'd have a short hamstring. The farrier, being bent over during the day, is going to have that longer, weak hamstring. So we're going to focus on number one, getting the glutes to build, because the glute is in a long position most of the day. Even though you're coming up, a lot of times as you start to get tired, you're going to use your back, lower back muscles to move. And we know from the previous parts of these videos that that's not something the body likes. So we're going to get those glutes bigger, and the bigger your glutes, the better your back is going to be supported. So that's going to be your main focus. The second thing is working on developing different types of speed during your big movements like squats, and trying to get different muscles to fire. So we're going to do a faster to a slower, and we're going to load those postural muscles, and we're going to not load those functional movers. And so that's going to be something that you can incorporate into your workout. Now I'm just going to show you about 6 or 7 exercises, and then you can incorporate this into your own routine. So if you have upper body that you like to do, blah, blah, blah. But this is really just to focus on the parts that you really want to make sure that you include into your workout. So let's start with squats. So this is how the series is going to go for a squat. So we're going to do a slow, a 1 count set first, which is going to be a warm up, focusing on trying to get the glutes to fire. Then we'll add some weight. We're going to drop the reps down from 15 on the first set to 12, and we're going to try to focus on drawing the body down rather than doing the push up, getting some of those postural hamstrings to work. And then we're going to really load and try to get the deep line of that core to engage during the push. And then we're going to go back to that first set, and we're going to do a pump set and really try to get those glutes to fire again. And we'll have all 3 variations of this. So the first one I have light. You can, this is what's good about a warm-up set. I'm going to use the Smith machine. You can use a squat rack. You can use a regular bar, whatever floats your boat. And the first set is a 1 count, 1, 1. Now, what happens with people when they squat, when they do glutes, they do this, which puts you into a posterior pelvic tip, and it's going to put everything into your back. So when you come up, you should already have felt your glutes. There's my glute. There's the contraction. I can feel that glute really open up at the base of this exercise and then push me up. So I'm really trying to focus on squeezing the glute without using my pelvis, just getting the energy from my brain to that muscle. Now, after you're done with that first set, remember, make sure those knees don't move over your toes. You can load whatever weight you want. I'll just put 10 pounds on this to show you. So you add your second weight, you're dropping down to 12. It's not going to be a big drop. And here's the key to doing pyramiding with your sets. You're trying to work to the point where your muscle has gotten lactic acid into it, breaking down and rebuilding for the future muscle. So if you're getting to 12 and you're not feeling it, you're either a little too light or you're not connecting with the energy into that muscle. The second set is postural. And I'm going to explain this with squats, and then the rest of it you can apply to. Hamstring is very weak on a farrier and long. And I would do this with almost all of my second sets on a weight training workout. we're doing a 2 count, but we're focusing on the pull of this exercise, that negative part of the exercise, so that that muscle is more accentuated. So when you move into the exercise, you're thinking 1, 2, 1, squeeze. Now I'm thinking about my hamstring pulling rather than my quadricep pushing. Is my quadricep pushing? Absolutely. Is my core working right now? Absolutely. Is my glute working? Yes. My lower leg. I have lots of postural muscle going on right now, but I'm sending my brain energy to my hamstring because that's what I really want to think about in this exercise. Now the third set is going to be your deep line set. And the deep line core is going to be the deep aspect of the leg, the deep aspect of the pelvis, the psoas, interior part of the lower back, transverse abdominal, and then moving into diaphragm. For video's sake, I'm not going to do the set so that I can explain it to you, but we're going to put another weight on and we're going to drop this down to 10. Now eventually you can drop this down even lower if you want to do a little heavier. And the difference between the second set and the third set is going to be your count. You're going to pull down for the count of 4 and push up for the count of 4. So you're thinking about both of those equally. And on the push, you want to think about the energy coming from the big toe into the heel and up through the center of the body, out the top of your head. We want to get that central core to work with that movement. Now, most important part of this is you breathe. When you come down, you're inhaling so that when you get that core to contract, you're exhaling on the exertion and you're not going to put any weight into that heart. But this is going to load the core and it's going to get the pelvic girdle to really work and that pelvic floor to really contract. And that's going to be important for that standing upright position. And then that last set you're going to do is you're going to go back to the 15. You can even do 20. Go back to the lightest weight and you're going to focus on trying to get the glute to work again. So the fourth set, you should be able to get the glute to fire much easier than you did the first set. So the second exercise we're going to do is a Hungarian squat, and my hat's going to cancel out the fact that this kettlebell is purple. So with a Hungarian squat, that upright leg is going to be long, and the reason why I want that long is because that position that a farrier is in all day is going to shorten this point of the hip. Now with this, go with what you feel. I put my leg a little further back for balance, but as you get more used to it, you can bring that foot up a little bit more. So this position, if you're really tight in your front hip, as you move down, the hip is going to want to drag you either back or you're going to come forward into the knee. So that's your soft stop. And when you work with a soft stop, you want to make sure that you're in good position. There's my soft stop, and I'm going to come up. And I'm going to keep working that exercise and let that tendon naturally open so that I'm not trying to force something to happen and have this exercise end up being anatomically incorrect. So same thing with this. You're going to do the same thing as the squat. You can do each leg. So as you're focusing, find a spot that's even. Try to keep the feet even. And notice the front of the hip and how different each one is. Try not to go lower on the side that's more flexible. And you really want to focus on the glute, on the pushing leg. Now, if you want to really work on that opposite hip, the front of the hip opening, as you come up, squeeze the glute on the opposite hip. And that's going to what's called reciprocally inhibit the front of the hip. So the third exercise is a deadlift. And the difference is going to be, because we're really focusing on the back of the body with a deadlift, most of the muscles that we're working are going to be postural. Glutes are in there, but they're in a very interesting position. So I'm only going to do, on my light set, 2 counts. I'm not going to go into a 1 count repetition. So that's going to be a little bit different than the squat. So when you pick up that bar and bring it back, the first set is going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, warming up the body. And then once you get through your first set of 15, then add your weight and stay with a second set of 2 counts and drop your repetitions down. And again, I'm doing 15, 12, 10, and then back up to 15. You certainly could do 15, 10, 8 or 8, 6 as you start getting stronger. You can even add another set in to a 4 count and make 2 4-count sets to get a little bit more postural deep line. So that's how you would do the deadlift, and then we're going to do the same thing with the hamstring curl. The exercise is going to be an isolated hamstring. You're going to go light for your first set, and you're going to go this, you cannot work glutes. So what you're going to do with this is you're just going to go light to warm the hamstring up into a 2 count, and then you're going to go a little heavier and do another 2 count. The hamstring is postural and it doesn't like fast movements. So don't go faster than a 2 on this. I already discussed that on another video. So we want to do exactly the same thing that we did on the deadlift with this, and we want to do a 2 count to start, light to warm up, and then a 2 count adding a little weight, and then that 4 count adding a little bit more weight and really challenging it, and then just do a pump set on 2 counts light again. Now I happen to be lucky enough to have an isolated glute machine. If your gym doesn't have one, you can do these on the floor. But if your gym does have an isolated glute, you're going to do this a little bit differently as well. Since this is a moving muscle, we're not going to load it. So it's going to be the opposite of our hamstring. We're going to get a nice light weight, and we're going to do a nice 1 count pump set, just getting that muscle to contract for 15 repetitions. And then we're going to switch to the second side. Then you'll add a little bit of weight. We're not going to load this muscle with a lot of weight. And then you're going to bring it to a 2 count. You're going to do a second set. If that weight still feels light to you, you can add a little bit more weight as long as it doesn't feel loaded, and do a third set of 2 counts. So this is the opposite of hamstring. So we're not going to ever load it and put it to a 4 count. We want to keep it light and we want to keep it moving. Gluteus has long fibers, so it really wants to move as a fast twitch muscle. So building glutes is going to be really more indicative of your squatting and your lunging and your leg pressing. Concentrated glutes we want to keep light. If you start to go too heavy, you may incorporate some of those interior hip muscles, and that can get you really sore. So trust me when I tell you, just keep it light and just really use the glute exercise as a way to find the glutes. And a standing version would just be using that leg to move backward. You can use a cable to do it. You could do a hip extension as long as you're doing them correctly. You could use something on your ankle weight-wise. Be careful it's not too heavy. It's got to be just something simple. You can also get down on the floor. If you look at the glute exercises on this site, there's a nice floor exercise video for you. So most gyms have a hyperextension, and a hyperextension is something that's going to work the back line of the body. This is a barrel that Joseph Pilates designed. And the reason why I like the barrel is because you can get an extra hamstring contraction in there. And when you move into your hyperextension and you're moving downward, this may not give you the same range of motion as the hyperextension board at the gym, but as you lift up, you can come all the way up and bend those knees and come back into that hamstring, and then push yourself back off and then bring it down. So this is a great way. Notice how I'm coming up with the whole back at the same time, then bending the knees and doing my hamstring curl. Now, how you can do this wrong is by using the back. If you let the back go and you come up with the back rather than coming up with the upper back. You want that spine to work in a unit. You want the lower part of the back and the neck to be in line with each other. You don't want the head to be dropped down. You can do this exercise as a calisthenic exercise, which I normally do between 10 and 15. A lot of the Pilates instructors will teach this in shorter 4 to 5 exercises to a set. That's individual. If you're starting out, start with just a few and then build it. You can add some time in between each one. You can do a combination if you have one of these at your gym with the hyperextension. If you don't, the hyperextension usually has heel rollers that you put your feet underneath. As you come up into that hyperextension, at the very end, you can gently hyperextend the lower back and gently bend the knees to get the hamstring and the lower back to work together. Most important part is not to let that pelvis move under while you're doing it. So it's a contraction and a knee bend, trying to get those two parts of the back line to work together. And we have one more exercise. The final exercise is going to be a kettlebell swing. And the reason why I chose this is because I'm going to do some shoulder work with it too. The upper part of the neck into the shoulder is postural and the upper pec, but the lower section of the pec and the midpoint of the rhomboids and the traps right below the neck point, below that first trapezius, is not. So this gives me the ability to make it a little bit more postural, and as you go up into your swing, you have to fight into that center core from yourself to move backwards. Now you can warm up by doing a squat swing, and using squats into it is great. If you can do it without a squat, that's fine, but I always like, and you know what, you need to work on your glutes. But we're gonna move to one arm and we're gonna go all the way up and all the way down. Nice and light through that kettlebell handle. Now, if it's banging on your wrist, they do make wrist guard gloves for this, but I'll actually do a little bit of a grip as I get to the top to slow it down, but I'm only working with 8 pounds right now. Now, from here, I'm gonna bend and press. And I'm gonna do a set of 10 to 15 on my shoulder press, and I'll switch to the second side. And I'll do the same thing to the second side. Up, good, and I'm gonna show you this to the side. So it's up, good. Keep that abdomen nice and active and lively. Make sure that that back is in a good position. Make sure those knees aren't coming forward. And then here, it's a press. Good. Now, after you have your first set done, alternate it. Do one push and the second one. All right? So you can alternate it like this. Coming up from the shoulder is a personal preference. However, you'll feel the difference in the stress onto the shoulder. Guys are always stronger in their upper body. Maybe not everybody, but generally speaking, their shoulder muscles are gonna have a bit more strength. So if that's something that you really wanna work on, you can do that. Just go slower, go lighter. So the final thing I'm gonna have you work on is your elongation. So you're bent over all day long. You're doing this work that's I commend you for, because it's not for the faint of heart. We're all going to applaud you for helping those beautiful animals maintain their health. But you want to open up in here, because this is where you have created that lack of energy through your day. And I'm going to give a little bit of, I'm going to go into holistic massage therapy. So this part of your lower back moves into sacral plexus nerves. The sacral plexus not only gives you your function of your legs with the nervous system, but it also gives you the function of everything internal organ-wise in that area. Your reproductive system, your urinary tract, your digestive system. That's important stuff. This is like a big elimination area of the body. The colon is in there. So we want to get the internal psoas muscle and the transverse abdominal and all of that long fascia to elongate at the end of the workout and at the end of the day. And that really is you moving yourself to the sky. Now you can do the deep line lift first, where I have the thumbs together and I move upward and breathe in and exhale by the time I'm up. Or you can just reach to the ceiling with a big breath and then gently look up and then exhale out. Now, I like teaching rib cage breathing. If you've never done it before, it's 4 counts, and it starts at the lowest section of the rib cage for the first count. Then we move up to this point. Then we move axillary. Then we move from the center part of the rib cage to just below the back of the neck. You can work with that. So it's breathing in to that rib cage, and then as you go up to that 4th count, and then exhaling as you come down. So the most important part is when you do this, breathing in, that you gently look towards the sky and you feel the connection point between the rib cage and the lower back start to expand. So what if you do this and you move too fast? So I can't stress enough, as a therapist and having tens of thousands